Hey, everybody. This is Annalisa Burgos with KITV4, and we're doing something interesting today. We're going to bring together a group of small business owners, restaurants, bars, marketing, and just to talk about how it's affecting the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, it's affecting them and their businesses, because right now we're focusing on reopening the economy, but how is that going to be laid out? So I want to introduce our people today. We have the person right here on my screen is Michael Miller. He is the co-owner of Tiki's. You might recognize that very popular hotspot in Waikiki. Then we also have Ryan Tanaka. He's the owner of Gio Pastrami. And we also have Justin Yoshino. He is the owner of Market Advantage, which specializes in marketing for the restaurant, bar, and tourism businesses. And Elisa Smithers is a distributor representative with Pernod Ricard, but she's also a consultant for all of these F&B businesses, and she knows the market well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this discussion about what's going to happen with all of you.
Thank you, Annalisa.
All right, I wanted to, since it's like a forum style, I wanted to try to see if, and we're all on Zoom, I wanted to start with some pointed questions at people. Let's start with you, Michael. Tell us about your personal experience at Tiki's. You did get a PPP loan. How is this going to work for you?
For my company, I did sign up for the PPP. I just received it this past week. And it's going to be the way it's set up right now.
Somebody else start. I'm having an audio issue.
Oh, I am?
Oh, sorry. Did I have an audio issue for Michael? Okay, we're going to hold on Michael because he's going to fix his audio issue. So let's go to Justin. Go ahead, Justin.
So I signed up for the PPP. I was awarded it through Central Pacific Bank, but my problem is going to be I'm going to be bringing back my employees, and it has to end by the end of June. But there isn't much work for us to do because everything hasn't opened up. So, you know, we can start to do planning. We can do a lot of house cleaning and put together some of our new projects. But the actual work is not going to really make sense for us unless it's extended, because you know, all the restaurants, bars, and hotels, which we work very closely with through all of our, you know, all the people that we do the promotions for, we can't take and actually implement anything because nothing is open. So it's going to help my staff out quite a bit. It's going to help me out, but as far as advancing forward and helping the business out overall, you know, we need to have this extended.
And you're not the only one suffering through that. Michael, how's your sound? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for having us on. And first, happy pre-Mother's Day to the two moms that are on the call with us. Congratulations for having great kids.
And you too, to your wife.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we've been affected. We did take the PPP loan, and we brought our staff back to work, but not physically back to work in the restaurant. We're doing a lot of training and other things, but as we walk through the call, I would like to talk about some of the legislative help that we would need on the national level, that we're asking our national leaders to recognize that restaurants are extremely affected and need some special consideration.
Well, and I know I've interviewed people as well who have said that they aren't going to be taking the PPP as the forgivable loan, and that's one of the biggest challenges. Are you in that pool?
Yeah, no, we have to. I mean, to take a loan and then you're still going to be required to pay it back then. And also what we did is we looked at as soon as we got the approval on it, we were keeping in touch with our employees, and we were polling them to see how many of them had gotten unemployment. And out of all of our employees, only 15% had actually gotten a actual any type of payment from Hawaii State unemployment. And the biggest issue was they just couldn't get on to the servers. They couldn't make the phone call. They couldn't get through on the phone lines. And so what we did is we knew that we had to try to get some money into their hands. So we did a lump sum payout of all of their paid time off. And that's what that loan allowed us to do. Because we had no cash flow, we couldn't do anything. So we're using it that way. So we paid everyone's paid time off out to give them a biggest check as possible. And then we brought them back following all the guidelines so that it can be forgivable. But the challenge for us and other restaurants and other businesses, especially here in Hawaii, is that we are not open for business. So although we're paying our employees and trying to get them trained up and doing online exercises and things like that, safety training, but the challenge is that we're not able to service our guests. So that's been the challenge.
Yeah, and we have no date as to restaurants and bars opening yet. And I know that's a big sticking point for a lot of people for planning. And Ryan, I want to go to you now. I know you've been working on this interesting plan. We talked a little bit about this offline, but the occupancy relief program to help with rent relief, because that's the biggest cost, I feel like, for a lot of our small business owners. Tell us about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to just echo what Michael said and wish both of you a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Special weekend. And thank you, Annalisa, for putting this on. So just to clarify, before I talk about the legislative proposal, I'm only one of 6 partners at Giovanni Pastrami. And for those of you who don't know, it's a premier sports bar on Lure Street in Waikiki. But I wear a few hats. I also serve as the CFO of Kai Hawaii, which is a structural engineering company. And then I own my own financial consulting business where I help a number of employee-owned companies to buy and sell real estate and businesses, including restaurants. So for Giovanni Pastrami, we, similar to Michael, we're in Waikiki, we closed the dine-in around March 17, went to takeout and delivery. We tried that until March 24th. And that was when the 14-day quarantine order started. So from that point on, once the Waikiki foot traffic went to 0 and hotel occupancy was below, single digits, below 10%, we were kind of in a quandary of what to do. We temporarily closed. We were also staying in touch with all of our employees. We had 63 employees affected by this and their families. So we were in touch with all of them. Fortunately, we have a terrific banker at First Hawaiian Bank, and shout out to all the banks for doing a fantastic job at getting the PPP monies for Hawaii. So we did receive our PPP loan, but because we're temporarily closed and all of our employees by that time had applied for unemployment, with the discussions now on tourism reopening and the 14-day quarantine possibly being lifted on July 31st, around the end of summer, if we were to pay our employees for 8 weeks, starting 2 weeks ago until the middle of June, they'd actually probably have to go back into unemployment and then go to the back of the line. So rather than disrupt them, we're just holding our monies and we're waiting for the National Restaurant Association to lobby with Congress at the federal level and hoping that they're able to extend the deadline and to also reduce that 75% allocation to payroll, among other things. So locally, Annalisa, going back to what you're asking, we were trying to figure out what kind of solutions we can come up with as a community. And there's been a number of people who have been assertive with programs to help restaurants, banks offering matching programs and things like Food a Go-Go and Malama Wheels, trying to get people in need who really, with the shelter-in-place order in effect, can't go out and shop and can't go out and pick up their food or go to restaurants, trying to bring the restaurants to them. And so while that's going on, along with programs like EIDL and other grants that are kicking in here and there, all of it collectively still isn't enough, because when the economy is at 0 output, there's just all this overhead that we have to incur. And what we were talking about before we began this panel discussion is that one of the greatest challenges that these different restaurants and small businesses are facing is they don't own their own land or space or their building. And they're bound to these lease agreements, which are between 3 to 5 years. And most of them were signed and executed prior to coronavirus. So they were based on market rents, whatever you're paying, whether it was based on foot traffic or, street visibility, um, or hotel occupancy if you're in a tourist area. And the market was strong back then. And we were on a multi-year, over 10-year bull market. And now the market's at a standstill. And it's not just here locally, it's nationally, it's globally, it's affecting everybody. And fortunately, we caught wind, and Justin brought this up, and we've been actually working together on this as well. The state of Hawaii is receiving $1.25 billion in this first round of CARES Act funding. And from that 1.25 billion, a percentage goes to the counties, and then a percentage goes to the city and county of Honolulu. And that dollar amount for the city and county of Honolulu is $387 million. So the city and county and the mayor formed an ad hoc committee, and they're going to be receiving solicitations from the public on different ways that the city can dole out the money. Clearly, there's people in need, whether they're tenants who are being affected, smaller businesses, whether they're homeless. So the money is really needed everywhere. Unfortunately, for the state to receive forgiveness, the monies have to be used for COVID response programs. So things like PPE, buying more testing, helping to build infrastructure at the Honolulu airport, helping with Gateway City, some type of screening process so that there is rapid testing available to them, delivering masks to the public, those kinds of things. So outside of that, the city and county of Honolulu is trying to figure out other ways that it can spend the money. So they're going to be putting money into the bus, or into public transportation, helping with social distancing, now as the market begins to reopen. But all that isn't enough either. And one of the challenges going back to these lease agreements is that the restaurants and the small businesses are at the mercy of the tenants, of the landlords. So because they're at the mercy of the landlords, and the landlords don't want to give away their legal rights because coronavirus happened so quickly, what they're doing is they're offering a rent deferral. They're not willing to abate or give free rent. And the reason for that really stems from also the fact that the counties are insisting and demanding that they continue to get paid on property taxes, because that's a sacred cow for the counties, which is understandable. It pays for their hardworking and hard-earned salaries. It pays for essential expenses that the counties face. So because they're the landowners of the landowners, and they're insisting that rents are collected even though it was a government-imposed shutdown, normally the property taxes are part of the lease agreements, and they're paid as a pass-through to landlords, to the counties. Since the tenants can't pay their rent, or the small businesses can't pay their rent, and they're at the mercy of the landlord is saying, okay, I'm going to front this for you in the form of a loan that you have to pay back over time. So we've been closed now from towards the end of March, now April, right into May. If tourism isn't reopened until July 31st, then restaurants may not reopen, hotels may not reopen, possibly some before, some after. That's a long time. And so landlords are going to put this deferred rent into a package, a loan package, and ask that tenants and restaurants pay it back over the next, say, 1 to 2 years. So just to put it into perspective, if you are given 3 months of rent deferral, then your rent over the next 12 months, if you have to pay it back within that period, is going to now go up by 25%. If you're given 6 months of deferral, your rent goes up by 50%. Again, rents were based on pre-market, pre-coronavirus conditions. And so with the economy in a slow recovery in many areas like Chinatown, Kaka'ako, some of the really heavily affected areas like the tourism areas, Waikiki, what's going to happen is uh, these restaurants and small businesses are not going to be able to make their rent payments going forward, and they're going to eventually go out of business. During the last recession, we lost 1,600 businesses. This time, economists are estimating it could be multiples, 3, 4, 5 times that. So if we're able to find a program, which we're working on, and save even 3,000 of these small businesses, that will continue to bring $150 million in GE tax revenue to the state of Hawaii. And that's going to be less of a tax burden on everybody else post-coronavirus. So what we're working on is a program that would use about $100 million of the city and county's allocation, and it would be offered to landlords to then pass it on through a worksheet. They'd list their tenants, and they'd pass it on to their to all of their tenants. The grant amount would be based on real property taxes. We needed some kind of a way to figure out how to distribute it most evenly, and real property taxes are based on assessed values, and commercial and resort assessed values are much higher and taxed at a higher rate. So when there's zero economic output like we're facing now, these landlords are being really hit hard. So if they get 6 months back from the city and county of Honolulu, and possibly the other counties if this catches on, then they're going to be asked to pass that back to their tenants by way of rent abatement. They're going to have a worksheet that they can check the boxes, CAM, credit. They're going to be asked to work out new lease agreements with their tenants so that there's a long-term solution so they work together. I'm not sure if you're aware, there is a largest coordinated rent strike on the mainland, starting with Los Angeles, New York City, and Philadelphia. And so they're, thousands of tenants are banding together and just not paying rent. We pulled from Appleseed's data, we learned that 90% of the Hawaii tenants in that affordable category in their membership were able to pay rent. So we're not, we didn't include the residential part into our proposal. It's just for the small businesses because the majority of them were unable to pay rent. We learned from the retail merchants of Hawaii that 80% of their members, 80% were deemed non-essential and were forced to close. It's a very high number. And they're actually still confirming that number, but we're estimating it's more than half. 60 to 70% of businesses have faced financial hardship during this last month and going on 2 to 3 month period. So what we're trying to do is propose to the city and county of Honolulu, to Mayor Caldwell, for Hawaii to lead by example and offer this program. It's a drop in the bucket from, it's less than 10% of their monies that they have to use for COVID-related expenses anyway. It will fit the bill. The state can get forgiveness. It can qualify for round 2 of additional CARES Act funding down the road. But the reach, if our numbers are correct, and there's 33,000 small businesses, and over half of them have demonstrable financial hardship, and if it's 70, 80%, that could be 20, 25,000 small businesses and all of their employees. And so what we're trying to do is create a tool. This program, the way that we're structuring it, applications would be received over a 2-week period, and 100% of the applicants would be, they'll be conditionally approved. They'd have criteria to then receive their grant monies to actually qualify. They'll be conditionally approved and then they'll qualify to receive the grant monies. Once they receive the grant monies, it means that they've passed on that benefit to their tenants that have faced financial hardship. Mm-hmm. So we believe that through this program, the $100 million from our numbers will cover a full 6 months of support for all of the qualifying landowners to help every single small business tenant and restaurant tenant that is facing financial hardship. We believe it could be a very powerful program. So that's what we're working on. It's going to be proposed next Wednesday. And so for those of you who are interested, Annalisa, feel free to collect inquiries and reach out to me, we can send the proposal. It's only a draft. We had a group of people from all different industries. We actually also were able to receive preliminary support already from the Hawaii Restaurant Association, from the Retail Merchants of Hawaii, from the Chamber of Commerce, from the HLTA. So, NIAP has been very instrumental in helping to revise it. We want additional input. We have until Tuesday at 10:30 to finalize it and then to submit it. So we would like it to be kind of a community-wide legislation. And then, we're also asking for testimony for those who are willing to submit testimony in writing as well as in person. So we're actually collecting the testimonies to be submitted together in one package.
And Ryan, I think it's important to note that this really is a business community driven initiative. From all of these voices, I know also that Justin and Michael, you support something like this. It's something that you would know best about because you're the ones struggling with all of these issues, particularly the high rent intrinsic to working in Waikiki. And the big part of it, obviously, is we're so tourism driven and we're so reliant on outsiders coming in and spending all of their money on vacations and at all of our establishments. That also raises a flag for our economy, doesn't it? I wanted at least Michael and Justin to weigh in on the legislative part of this and how our diversification can go forward.
Sure, I'll go first. So first of all, I want to thank the Hawaii Restaurant Association, Cheryl, our executive director, Matsuoka, as well as Tom Jones and the entire, all the volunteers of the different committees that have met with the governor, spoken to different legislative people at all levels that are really trying hard to make, to share the message of what's going on and give our perspective. So they've all been working hard. I think economic diversity is great, but I also think we have to be, people have been talking about that for generations of that here in Hawaii. And there's been some initiatives that haven't really always taken off. So I think this might be the push to get that going, but the truth is the tax monies that would be needed to get diversification going aren't going to exist without tourism. So I think we do tourism well, and we should be able to do tourism safe. And I think it's a good resetting point for tourism in Hawaii. But yeah, I don't know how much economic diversification we can do in the short time. We're going to have a lot of people still on unemployment if that's the case.
And Justin, did you want to weigh in too?
I also share Michael's sentiment in that, because we're already a tourist-based economy, we need to revive the tourism. And without doing that, having the tourists come over, we're never going to recover, and we won't be able to support these other initiatives moving forward. So I think the first line of duty, as a small business person, my company does marketing for all the liquor companies such as Pernod Ricard, Constellation Wines, Jackson Family Wines, and I work with Budweiser. Without them giving us the support money to help promote the restaurants and bars, and the restaurants and bars aren't open, so there's no work for us to do. It's a trickle-down effect, and without these tourists coming in, everybody's affected. So what I wanted to ask is, of that $1.25 billion that the state received, by the way, every state received that money. And if it's used, and I can quote Governor Ige here, who said that the state's share was sorely needed because of the dire financial consequences of halting its tourism industry as the virus spread. So we need to take those funds, and the first thing we need to fix is to get our tourists back to Hawaii. And how do we do that? There has to be testing before they come in, when they get here, and also if there's a way to figure out if they get sick while they're here, what are we going to do? If we don't fix that, this problem is going to exist for a long time. And as Ryan pointed out, there's going to be thousands of businesses that are going to close if we don't open up tourism in a safe manner and we act now to plan ahead. I've spoken with one of the directors at Hawaiian Air, so I know that the airport is working through the progression of bringing the tourists back in by having those scanners that, that take your temperature as you walk through, as they have in some of the, in Japan and some of the other countries have already instituted. So the planning has to really start now. We really need to start this ball rolling and get answers and get proposals and putting these programs into action, because at the end of the day, we can talk about this forever, but if we don't bring the tourists back to Hawaii, we're never gonna get back to our our daily lives and be able to support all of the businesses in Hawaii. So that should be first and foremost. The safety, of course, but also the next step is to getting these restaurants, hotels, and resorts, and getting people to fly to Hawaii. And that should be our main focus of the second phase, which should be starting now. So I would like to see a big chunk of that $1.25 million put into testing, put into our industry, and help us revive it. So
I think a lot of people would agree with that, because visitors are already starting to trickle in, and yet there isn't enough testing of them going on. I know there's screening, but people think that they should be more aggressive in that for sure. I wanted to go back to Michael about, you mentioned also on this vein of rent relief. Are you negotiating with your landlord as well?
Your
Michael, is he still there?
Thank you. Yeah, we haven't been able to negotiate with our landlord. Unfortunately, we're hoping for that, but that just hasn't happened yet. It's a challenge. So rent's still due, and it just keeps mounting and piling up. So, and we're not the only people facing that. So we're really hoping that some honest we are in this together, and we really hope that they feel the same way down the road, that we can come together to some type of a mutual understanding. The deferment process, just as Ryan alluded to, just doesn't really work, because all you're going to do is have that debt hanging over you, and it's not like we're going to be doing gangbusters to be able to pay additional. That's also why the PPP, if you're not utilizing it the right way, you're going to owe that money on top of the rent, on top of all these other expenses.
Yeah, and Elisa, I did want to bring you in, because we initially discussed all these topics because of the interview I did with Bill Comerford, who owns the 4 Irish pubs, and he was really just laying it all out, saying, there is no way for me to stay in business if we aren't allowed to open. And this is something that kind of raised awareness of the struggles that businesses in Hawaii have had even before COVID-19, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Hawaii is a really expensive place to live and do business. And even before COVID, a lot of the restaurants were already struggling. High rent, inflation here in Hawaii just continues to go up, our high cost of doing business, the high cost of food. So I think there's a misconception from the comments that I had commented on from the interview that you did, that they should have had the capital or the savings going into COVID to be able to recover. But for most of the businesses here, they didn't have those savings. They're not making very much profit, if any profits at all. And for any closures, it made a huge difference for them. And now they're trying to struggle through this COVID situation with no timelines. So even if they had a small savings, how long do they need to save for? How do they pay back if they get deferments? They still have to pay rent. They still have to pay for a lot of their taxes. They still have to pay for all these bills that didn't go away with COVID, but where they were forced to close down. So like everyone is saying here, there is possible solutions. There is, there's answers that these restaurants are looking for, but it wasn't something that just happened with COVID. We also have to address before COVID these issues that made it hard for them to do business in the first place. And I think a good start with that is, hey, one, we have laws that are a little antiquated, in my opinion, that kind of hurt us. And if we do have the tourism come back and we open up our business, how do we pivot to get the customers that we want here? We might not necessarily want the same tourism that are coming here. We might not get back the same tourism because we have other places around the world that are still closed or may not come here. So how do we pivot through that? How do we work through the regulations that are making it hard for us to pivot very quickly? Who do we talk to, and how do we get that time and that forum to be able to talk to our lawmakers and to see how we can change some of our laws to be able to pivot very quickly and to address the issues we had even before COVID?
And I think what all of you guys are highlighting is just the ingenuity that the business community is just having in terms of dealing with this crisis, because frankly, the resources on the federal or the state level aren't there yet. And you really are kind of leading this charge to raise awareness among the public, because yeah, like you said, the public may not know, they see like, oh, you guys are making a lot of money. Why aren't you surviving? They don't see it from this perspective that you are. So this is very important. I just wanted to give everyone a last chance to kind of give just your final thoughts on how we can go forward from this. I know Ryan spoke extensively about the legislative efforts that you're working on, and just let's do a quick circle around. Ryan, for our viewers who may want to know more about this, what can you offer? What can you tell them?
Well, there's always the silver lining, which I think right now is that we have more time with our families, right? People are more healthy. They're able to reduce pollution in many of these metro cities around the world. And hopefully, it looks like even the common cold, influenza, that may all go down this year. So, it's a good time to get new hobbies. Well, and again, happy Mother's Day to both of you and to all the mothers out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Who's next? Michael, you want to take it?
Sure. So, what we've been doing is trying to do our best to communicate. Our management team, we're using Zoom as a platform and meeting a few times a week, getting plans together, although they keep changing depending on what we're hearing as far as dates. And the ingenuity of the team has been phenomenal. I'm very proud of both the management team and all of our employees. We've only had a little bit of resistance from a few people about coming back to work, and it's been amazing. So I'm very lucky that I have a great team to work with.
Okay, great. And Justin?
Yeah, likewise. I have such a great staff, and everything that I've thrown at them, I've been very transparent in real time. As I got the loan. I'm applying for the loan. I got the loan. This is what's going to happen next. And they all said that they're very supportive of whatever comes down the line. If they need to make sacrifices, they understand that, and that it's just nice to see out of all this people coming together. For me, one of the things that I always wanted to do was start to exercise. So I've been like running and walking and riding a bike almost every day, and I really enjoy that now. So I'm going to make that part of my lifestyle, and then to see the other countries and cities, LA without the smog. Venice, you could see the water and all the pollution going out there. In Korea, you said from the city, you could see the mountains. And maybe it's a time to reset and really take time to see what we have done in our environment. So out of every bad thing comes some good things and opportunities. So, I wish everybody the best. I want to wish all the mothers happy Mother's Day, and that we got to keep moving forward. We're really depending on our state leaders to be a leader, to take the ownership and to take the opportunities that are here in front of us and to make the decisions that's going to make Hawaii healthy. And let's get the tourists back. Let's test them. Let's get them back. We need them.
Wonderful, Justin. And Lisa, my fellow mom.
Yes. And first of all, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I saw something on social media the other day. It said that we're all in the same storm, but we might not all be in the same boat. And that's so true. I mean, each one of us are having our own struggles. Each one of us are finding our own silver lining. And the thing that I wanted to say is that I'm so proud of Hawaii. I mean, I work with a big corporation that works with many different states across the United States. And Hawaii is truly unique. We are truly pulling together and trying to help each other out. And with that truly embodies the Aloha spirit. And I'm just super proud to be in Hawaii. And I hope everybody the best. Let's hang in there, and we're all in this together and for each other. And with that, aloha.
Aloha, and thank you so much, everyone. I just wanted to say that I appreciate and respect all of you for all the great work you're doing. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this program that you're working on, Ryan. And for more information, I'll put that all up on our website as well, kitv.com. If you want to, submit some testimony, get more information, I'll share that with our viewers. I know this was just a brief kind of overview. The Facebook Live crapped out, but I'm going to post the full video after this so that people can comment and share the kind of the aloha that you guys are spreading and the efforts that the business community is working on. So thanks again, everybody. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So much.
Aloha.
Reminder, Michael Miller, Ryan Tanaka, Justin Yoshino, and Elisa all joining us today. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.